You see, there's a force at play in relationships that many overlook, the unseen energy that binds hearts beyond logic. A super empath does not merely love, they illuminate. They feel deeply, they give freely, and yet they often encounter the avoidant, someone who is not yet ready to meet them on that sacred level. And here is the paradox. When you, the empath, pull away, they return. They reappear as if drawn by an invisible thread. Why? Because the energy you carry is not ordinary. It is divine. Avoidants are drawn not just to your presence, but to the truth you hold in your absence. When you step back, you are no longer available to their projections, no longer a mirror for their comfort. They are confronted by the space you create. That space awakens something in them, something they have buried or ignored, the part of themselves that longs for connection, that craves the depth only a true empath can offer. You are not pulling away to punish. You are pulling away to honor your own boundaries, your own divine essence. Understand this, the reattraction is not a failure. It is a reflection of the natural law of resonance. The universe conspires to bring energy back to itself, and your energy, your light, cannot be ignored. Avoidants return because your presence exposes the part of them that is incomplete, that is resisting growth, and your absence shows them the mirror of what they have been avoiding, the love that is conscious, pure, and uncompromising. But hear me clearly, this is not a call to fall back into cycles. This is a sacred lesson. You are learning the power of your own energetic sovereignty. You are learning that your love is not a tool for healing others. It is a reflection of the divine within you. Every pullback, every boundary is a declaration that you are whole even when others are not ready. And in that wholeness, something miraculous happens. You teach the avoidant the highest form of love, not through chasing, not through giving endlessly, but through the courage to stand in your truth. You are a magnet of transformation, not merely affection. And when you reattract, it is the universe showing that energy cannot lie. It cannot be denied. The lesson is simple, yet profound. Honor your energy, hold your boundaries, and step into the sacred rhythm of giving and withdrawing. In that rhythm, you will not only attract those who are ready, but you will awaken the dormant potential in those who resist, guiding them toward the love they have been avoiding, not through force, but through the divine principle of resonance. Remember, super empaths are not broken for feeling deeply. They are chosen for their capacity to illuminate what others hide. And when you choose yourself over the chaos, over the need to be seen, you step into a realm where love is conscious, boundaries are sacred, and the universe dances to the divine pattern of your energy. That is the power you hold. That is the truth you embody. And no one, not even the most avoidant soul, can ignore it. A super empath is not just someone who feels deeply. They are a living conduit of energy, an embodiment of emotion so profound that their presence leaves an imprint long after they have stepped away. This imprint is not physical, nor is it something that can be measured by logic or reason. It is subtle, yet powerful. It is a vibration that resonates with the very core of those around them. When a super empath interacts with someone, especially an avoidant, they leave behind a trace of authenticity, of emotional clarity, and of spiritual depth that is almost impossible to forget. The avoidant may not consciously recognize it, may not even understand what they are feeling, but on an energetic level, something has shifted within them. There is a memory imprinted not on the surface of their mind, but in the hidden chambers of their psyche, a memory of what it feels like to be truly seen, to be reflected without judgment, and to be held in the presence of someone who does not waver in their own emotional truth. This imprint is magnetic because it awakens a recognition of something that the avoidant often denies in themselves. Avoidants are conditioned, consciously or unconsciously, to shy away from deep emotional intimacy. They fear vulnerability, rejection, and the intensity of authentic connection. Yet, when they encounter a super empath, those fears meet their mirror. The empath's energy, gentle yet unwavering, activates the parts of the avoidant that long for connection but are terrified to reach for it. It stirs memories, feelings, and sensations that the avoidant may have buried for years. And because energy is more persistent than reason, the imprint lingers. Even when the empath steps back, Even when boundaries are drawn and physical distance is created, the vibrational essence remains, echoing in the avoidant subconscious. It is important to understand that this is not manipulation or control. The super empath is not intentionally leaving an imprint to cause longing or attachment. It is simply the natural consequence of their authenticity. A person who feels and gives at that level cannot interact without affecting the energetic field of others. The intensity of their presence is transformative by nature. It activates self-reflection, stirs emotional awareness, and often confronts avoidance with truths they have been avoiding about themselves, their capacity for intimacy, and the patterns they repeat in relationships. When a super empath pulls away, the absence does not erase the imprint. In fact, it amplifies it. The avoidant experiences a subtle tension, a magnetic pull toward the energy they have already encountered. The imprint acts like a lingering fragrance, a reminder of something beautiful that once existed and could exist again, yet also something that challenges the avoidant to confront their own emotional barriers. The pull is not conscious, it is not deliberate, but it is undeniable. Energy remembers, energy resonates. The vibrational signature of the super empath continues to influence, to stir, to call, even when words, promises, or gestures have ended. This imprint also carries a lesson for the empath themselves. Recognizing the power of their energy encourages them to honor their own boundaries, to be intentional about who they allow into their field, and to understand that their presence alone has influence. The imprint is a sacred reminder that super empaths are not ordinary. They are catalysts for emotional awakening. The avoidance return is not merely a reaction. It is the manifestation of the magnetic, transformative energy that the empath naturally radiates. It is a spiritual principle in action. Energy cannot be ignored, it cannot be diluted, and it cannot be erased. In essence, the super empath's imprint is a living, breathing force. It exists in the subtle shifts of awareness, the quiet stirrings of reflection, and the undeniable pull that draws the avoidant back. It is both a gift and a responsibility, a demonstration of how profoundly energy can influence human connection when one dares to live and love fully, authentically, and without compromise. In relationships between super empaths and avoidants, one of the most powerful forces at play is the unresolved emotional loop. This is not just a psychological concept, it is a living energetic cycle that moves between two people, often without either fully understanding why it exists. When a super empath has invested emotionally, energetically, and spiritually in someone who is avoidant, there is an imprint left behind. But beyond the imprint, there is an unfinished story. The avoidant, by their very nature, resists fully engaging with emotions, often fleeing or shutting down when intimacy grows too intense. The empath, deeply attuned and sensitive, senses the withdrawal, feels the rejection, and ultimately pulls back to protect their own heart. Yet in that pullback, the loop is not closed, it is simply paused. This unresolved loop creates a tension that neither side can fully ignore. The avoidant feels an inexplicable sense of incompleteness, a sense that something was left unsaid, something unexperienced, a connection that was interrupted. It is not rational. It is not about logic or conscious desire. It is about the deep human longing to reconcile the story of connection, to close the chapter that was left open. The empath, on the other hand, may feel relief at creating distance, yet internally they also feel the echoes of the interaction, how deeply they engaged, how much energy they invested, and how much they were mirrored in ways that no one else can replicate. This combination of pull and resistance forms the basis of the emotional loop, and it is extraordinarily magnetic. Avoidants are often drawn back because the loop represents unfinished business. Their avoidance is not necessarily a rejection of the empath, but a reflection of their own internal incompleteness. They are confronted with feelings they are not ready to process fully, yet the memory of the empath's energy and the depth of connection acts as a subtle, persistent call. This is why, even after the empath withdraws, the avoidant feels a compulsion to return, to see if what was lost can be retrieved. or to resolve the tension that exists within themselves. It is a subconscious drive rooted in both emotional resonance and the human need for closure. For the super empath, understanding this loop is crucial. Pulling away is not a failure, it is an essential act of self-preservation and self-respect. Yet, being aware of the emotional loop allows the empath to navigate their interactions consciously. They begin to understand that the avoidance return is not about proving love or worthiness, it is about the natural mechanics of emotional energy seeking resolution. Recognizing this transforms the dynamic from one of frustration or confusion into one of awareness and empowerment. The empath realizes that the cycle is not a trap, but a reflection of the deeper truths in both themselves and the other person. Moreover, these loops are not accidental. They are spiritual lessons. They highlight patterns that need to be healed for both the empath and the avoidant. The loop exists to teach boundaries, to teach the importance of self-worth, and to illuminate the difference between genuine connection and energy-driven compulsion. The empath learns to relate attachment to outcomes, understanding that their role is not to fix or chase, but to hold space and allow the natural resolution of energy. The avoidant, when they re-encounter the empath, has an opportunity to witness the depth and stability of emotional presence that they have been avoiding in themselves. Ultimately, the unresolved emotional loop is a mirror of human growth. It is a force that pulls without coercion, that calls without judgment, and that reflects the intricate dance of energy between two souls. The empath who understands this loop does not fear it, nor does they try to control it. They honor it, recognize its purpose, and use it as a guide to navigate relationships with clarity, strength, and divine awareness. It is in this recognition that transformation occurs, and the magnetic pull that seems mysterious becomes a profound lesson in love, boundaries, and self-realization, one of the most subtle yet powerful dynamics in the relationship between super empaths and avoidants is the phenomenon of projection. Avoidants are often drawn to super empaths not only because of the empath's energy, but because the empath becomes a canvas on which the avoidant unconsciously paints their idealized version of love, connection, and emotional depth. The avoidant sees in the empath not simply who they are, but who they wish the world or themselves could be. This projection is not malicious or calculated. It is a deeply human response to unmet needs, past wounds, and unhealed parts of the psyche. The empath, by virtue of their extraordinary sensitivity and capacity for reflection, becomes the mirror of the avoidant's inner desires and hidden vulnerabilities. This projection creates a powerful magnetic pull. When the empath pulls away, the avoidant is confronted not only with absence, but with the loss of the image they have constructed. The idealized version of the empath, the one that exists in the avoidant's imagination, remains unfinished. It is a story they long to continue, a fantasy of connection that promises resolution, understanding, and love. On a subconscious level, the avoidant is not simply seeking the empath, they are seeking the fulfillment of their own inner projection, the reconciliation of an imagined perfection with reality. The empath, through no intentional act, embodies this projection, their authenticity, their depth, and their energetic presence resonate with the avoidant's desire for an ideal connection, even when the avoidant is not ready to fully engage with the real person in front of them. Projection in this dynamic is both illuminating and dangerous. For the avoidant, it reveals what they long for emotionally and spiritually, but it also exposes their patterns of avoidance, fear, and resistance to intimacy. They are drawn to the empath because the empath reflects qualities they admire but feel incapable of sustaining themselves: emotional awareness, vulnerability, and unwavering presence. The empath becomes a live-in symbol of what they hope to achieve but have not yet integrated. This is why the pull to return is so strong. The avoidant is drawn to the echo of their own ideal, seeking validation, fulfillment, or a sense of completion that exists only in their projected image. For the empath, understanding this dynamic is crucial. Recognizing that the avoidance attraction is intertwined with projection allows the empath to detach from the illusion without detaching from their own truth. The empath sees that the avoidant's desire to return may not always be a reflection of genuine emotional growth, but rather a yearning to reconnect with the story they have created in their mind. This awareness empowers the empath to navigate the pull and return cycle with clarity, compassion, and boundaries. They no longer feel responsible for the avoidance projections, and they no longer mistake return behavior for transformation or realignment. The spiritual lesson here is profound. Projection illuminates the parts of ourselves that remain unrealized, both for the avoidant and the empath. For the avoidant, the projection challenges them to confront their inner world, recognize what they are avoiding, and eventually integrate the qualities they long to see externally. For the empath, it teaches discernment and self-mastery, how to offer love without losing oneself in someone else's fantasy. The cycle of projection and return is not a punishment, it is a mirror of consciousness. It is an invitation to witness the patterns of attachment, to step into energetic sovereignty, and to honor both the self and the other in the dance of emotional awakening. Ultimately, the projection of the ideal self explains why avoidants often reappear after the empath has pulled away. They are not chasing only the person. They are chasing a reflection of their deepest longings, a glimpse of what they imagine love could be. The super empath, by existing fully and authentically, allows that projection to surface and teaches through presence and boundaries that love cannot be idealized without truth, that connection cannot flourish without integrity, and that the divine lesson of attraction lies in recognizing energy, reflection, and conscious engagement. One of the most profound dynamics between super empaths and avoidants is the mirror effect. Super empaths do not simply interact with others. They reflect the deepest parts of the human psyche, often revealing qualities, fears, and desires that remain hidden even from the person themselves. In relationships with avoidants, this mirror effect is intensified. The empath naturally reflects not just surface behaviors, but the emotional and energetic truths that the avoidant has spent a lifetime avoiding. Their presence is like a light illuminating every shadow, every hidden wound, and every part of the self that the avoidant may deny. This is why the connection feels so magnetic, so compelling, and at times so frightening for the avoidant. They are confronted with the parts of themselves they are unprepared to face, yet cannot ignore. The empathic mirror does not operate on judgment or criticism. It is not about pointing out flaws or forcing change. Instead, it holds up an unwavering reflection, showing the avoidant their patterns, their fears, and their unexpressed longings with a clarity that is both gentle and unyielding. The avoidant may feel discomfort in this reflection, often interpreting it as pressure or criticism, but in reality, it is a sacred opportunity for growth. The mirror reveals the truths they have avoided, and in doing so creates both resistance and attraction. The avoidant resists because facing oneself is difficult, yet they are drawn magnetically to the mirror because it awakens something in them that they long to integrate, the capacity for deeper connection, self-awareness, and authentic presence. When the super empath pulls away, the mirror does not disappear. In fact, their absence often makes the reflection more potent. The avoidant is left to confront the energetic and emotional truths that the empath revealed, but now without the physical presence to distract, soothe, or mitigate the confrontation. This absence creates a tension, a subtle yet undeniable pull, because energy remembers what the mirror showed. The avoidant begins to sense the qualities they admired or feared within themselves, and this recognition can compel them to return, to seek the energy that once reflected their own acknowledged potential. It is not a simple attraction. It is a response to being confronted by the raw truth of themselves, magnified through the empath's presence. The empathic mirror is also a powerful lesson for the super empath. It teaches them the value of energetic awareness and the importance of boundaries. To reflect deeply without attachment or control requires discipline and clarity. The empath must recognize that their mirror does not exist to fix the avoidant, nor to draw them into a cycle of repeated return. Instead, it exists to honor truth and catalyze growth, both in the avoidant and in themselves. This understanding allows the empath to navigate the magnetic pull consciously, holding space without losing themselves, offering reflection without taking responsibility for outcomes, and stepping back without fear of abandonment or rejection. On a spiritual level, the empathic mirror is a divine principle in action. It demonstrates that energy cannot lie, that truth is magnetic, and that authentic presence carries a transformative power beyond any word or gesture. Avoidants return not simply out of desire, but because the mirror effect activates their awareness. They are drawn to the energy that reflects what they have been avoiding, and the return is often a subconscious attempt to reconcile with their own inner truths. The magnetic nature of this dynamic also underscores the empath's role in conscious relationships. They are not meant to be drained or trapped end cycles, but to illuminate and inspire. The mirror allows both parties to witness patterns, emotions, and hidden desires, and the return of the avoidant is merely a reflection of the magnetism of authenticity. It shows that energy has memory, that reflection is unforgettable, and that true connection is built not on chasing or control, but on awareness, boundaries, and the courage to face oneself in the presence of another. At the core of the dynamic between super empaths and avoidants lies a profound interplay of attachment patterns, a force that governs the push and pull of connection long before conscious thought enters the picture. Attachment is not merely a psychological concept. It is an energetic blueprint, a deep-rooted pattern that shapes how we relate, love, and seek connection. Super empaths, by virtue of their sensitivity and depth, often operate from a place of secure attachment in their hearts. Even if their past experiences have been challenging, they are able to give love freely, mirror emotions authentically, and maintain their own energetic integrity. Avoidants, on the other hand, often carry a more fearful or anxious attachment pattern. They are drawn to intimacy, yet resist it, creating a cycle of approach and withdrawal that can feel inexplicable to those who encounter it. These attachment patterns are at the heart of why avoidants reattract to empaths after the empath pulls away. The super empath's withdrawal triggers something in the avoidant's nervous system, a subtle alarm, a tension, a magnetic pull that arises from a combination of fear and desire. The avoidant has learned, often unconsciously, to avoid being fully seen or fully available in relationships because of past wounding, rejection, or abandonment. Yet the empath's energy, so authentic, grounded, and unwavering, activates a longing that cannot be ignored. When the empath steps back, the avoidant experiences both loss and opportunity, loss of the connection they fear but desire, and opportunity to reconcile with the very patterns they have been avoiding. Attachment patterns also explain the push-pull dynamic that can feel cyclical. The empath, sensing the avoidant's withdrawal or resistance, may pull back to protect themselves, establishing healthy boundaries and honoring their own energy. The avoidant, driven by their own attachment blueprint, may interpret this withdrawal as both a challenge and a call. Subconsciously, they are compelled to return, seeking the comfort, validation, or recognition that the empath represents. It is not simply about the person. It is about the attachment energy that has been activated, a pattern that the avoidant often does not fully understand, but feels viscerally. The empath, by stepping away, is not creating drama or conflict. They are honoring the natural law of boundaries and energetic sovereignty. The avoidance return is a reflection of the unresolved attachment energy, the deep-seated longing for what they fear and desire. Simultaneously, understanding these patterns transforms the way super empaths engage with these dynamics. Rather than feeling frustrated, manipulated, or trapped in cycles, the empath can see the behavior as a reflection of the other person's attachment blueprint. The avoidance return is not about the empath's worth or effort. It is about the magnetic interplay of fear, desire, and the unfinished energetic loops inherent in attachment. This awareness empowers the empath to maintain their boundaries with compassion and clarity, holding space for both the other's growth and their own self-respect. Attachment patterns also carry spiritual significance. They are not mistakes or punishments. They are guides, revealing the areas of growth and integration that both the empath and the avoidant need to navigate. For the empath, they teach discernment, self-sovereignty, and the importance of energetic integrity. For the avoidant, they illuminate the patterns that prevent authentic connection, inviting a deeper awareness of fear, resistance, and the yearning for closeness. The cycle of withdrawal and return, when viewed through the lens of attachment, becomes less about relational chaos and more about a sacred dance of growth, reflection, and awakening. Ultimately, the interplay of attachment patterns explains the magnetism between super empaths and avoidants. It is a dance of energy and consciousness, a reflection of deep-seated human longing, and an invitation to step into awareness. When the empath understands these dynamics, they no longer chase or force connection. They hold their energy, maintain their boundaries, and allow the natural resolution of patterns to unfold. The avoidance return is simply evidence that energy, attachment, and authentic presence cannot be denied. They seek completion not in control, but in resonance with the truth the empath embodies. Of the most powerful reasons super empaths attract avoidance after pulling away is the awakening created by boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They are declarations of self-respect, energetic sovereignty, and clarity of purpose. For super empaths, who naturally give deeply and absorb emotions with ease, boundaries are essential for protecting their energy and maintaining alignment with their higher selves. Yet for avoidance, boundaries are often experienced as a challenge, a sudden absence, or even a confrontation with the truth they have long resisted. When a super empath steps back, claiming their space, they activate something within the avoidant that goes beyond curiosity. They awaken a reflection of what has been missing in the avoidant's life: emotional honesty, presence, and the recognition that love is not always available on demand. Avoidants are typically accustomed to chasing or fleeing in response to intimacy. They fear being consumed by emotions or being fully seen, so they unconsciously avoid connections that demand depth. The super empath, however, does not chase. When they pull away, they demonstrate through action what words cannot convey: self-worth, clarity, and the sacred importance of honoring one's own energy. This absence is transformative for the avoidant because it forces them to confront a truth they cannot ignore. Authentic love does not bend to fear, and genuine connection is not about possession or control. The empath's boundaries become a mirror, reflecting both the beauty of conscious love and the inadequacy of avoidance. The awakening caused by boundaries is not simply about loss, it is about reflection and realization. Avoidants feel a subtle tension, an invisible pull that draws them toward the energy they once took for granted. The empath's withdrawal creates a space that is magnetic precisely because it is unavailable. It awakens desire not as a shallow attraction, but as a recognition of what is missing in their own emotional life. For many avoidants, this is the first time they experience a relationship that cannot be manipulated, controlled, or taken for granted. The empath, through their absence, becomes a teacher without words, showing that love has structure, respect, and sacred limits. For the super empath, understanding the power of boundaries is a spiritual revelation. Boundaries are not about punishment or testing. They are about sovereignty. They are the manifestation of divine principles in human relationships: clarity, presence, and energetic integrity. When an empath steps back, they honor themselves and the other person simultaneously. The avoidance return is not the empath's goal. It is a natural byproduct of the energy they carry. By holding firm, the empath transforms a potentially draining cycle into a moment of teaching, reflection, and higher consciousness. Boundaries also challenge the avoidant to confront their own internal resistance. The pull to return is not arbitrary. It is a call to self-awareness. The avoidant begins to feel the contrast between the energy they fear and the energy they desire. They sense the difference between reactive attachment and conscious connection, between avoidance and genuine intimacy. In this space, growth becomes possible. They are invited, subtly but powerfully, to rise to the level of the love they have been avoiding, or at the very least to acknowledge the gap between their fear and their longing. Energetically, this dynamic demonstrates a universal truth: energy cannot be forced, and presence cannot be faked. The empath's boundaries are a demonstration of divine alignment, showing that love is a dance, not a possession. The avoidant returns not because they have manipulated the situation, but because the energy of conscious love, the energy that the empath embodies, is magnetic, undeniable. And transformative. The act of pulling away illuminates the truth for both parties, for the empath, the power of self-sovereignty, for the avoidant, the magnetic pull of authenticity, the awakening of desire tempered by respect, and the recognition that real connection requires courage and emotional maturity. Boundaries, then, are the catalyst for transformation. They create space, activate reflection, and reveal the energetic truth that underpins attraction. In the dynamic between super empaths and avoidants, this awakening explains the magnetic return. It is not a coincidence, but the natural resonance of energy seeking alignment with truth. There is a deeper, unseen principle at work in the cycle between super empaths and avoidants, and it is one that transcends psychology or human behavior. This principle is divine timing. The recognition that every interaction, every pullback, and every return occurs in alignment with a higher order, a universal rhythm designed to teach, awaken, and guide. Super empaths often struggle with these cycles because they feel intensely, think deeply, and seek clarity in every relationship. When an avoidant reappears after the empath pulls away, it can feel confusing, frustrating, or even like a test of patience. Yet, when viewed through the lens of divine timing, every return, every encounter is purposeful. It is not random, and it is never wasted. The spiritual lesson embedded in this timing is profound. The universe orchestrates connexio, NS, not to create attachment or dependency, but to illuminate truths that would otherwise remain hidden. Avoidants return not merely out of desire or unfinished loops. They return because the timing is aligned for them to witness the energy, boundaries, and authenticity of the empath. In that return, there is an opportunity for recognition, reflection, and growth. They are given a mirror of their own unhealed patterns and an invitation to see, perhaps for the first time, what conscious, sovereign love looks like. The universe moves in subtle, precise ways, placing the right people at the right time in the right circumstances, not to satisfy ego, but to teach the soul. For super empaths, divine timing teaches patience, trust, and alignment. The pull of the avoidant may create temptation to re-engage, to explain, or to soften boundaries, but the higher lesson is to trust the rhythm of the universe. Every pullback, every withdrawal is a step in the evolution of the empath's energy. It is a sacred reminder that love is not about force or persuasion. It is about resonance, timing, and the alignment of energy. When the empath honors this divine timing, they are practicing conscious love, love that is unconditional, sovereign, and aligned with purpose. This principle also reframes the idea of return. The avoidant does not return simply because the empath is desirable or magnetic, though those qualities are undeniable. They return because the universe has created conditions in which they are energetically and spiritually ready to engage, even if only partially, with the truths they have been avoiding. In this moment, the empath becomes a catalyst for awakening, a reflection of possibility, and a demonstration of what authentic presence feels like. The return is a lesson, not a reward. It is a reminder that every energetic exchange carries meaning, and that every cycle has a purpose in the grand design of growth. Divine timing also emphasizes the importance of perspective. Super empaths are often inclined to analyze, strategize, or search for reasons behind the avoidance behavior. While awareness is valuable, divine timing teaches surrender. It teaches that the universe orchestrates connection beyond the limitations of the mind, and that patience, trust, and clarity of intention are more powerful than manipulation or control. When empaths understand this, they no longer chase outcomes. They allow the natural flow of energy to guide the interaction, knowing that every withdrawal, every return, and every moment of tension is part of a greater lesson in love, boundaries, and consciousness. Ultimately, the cycles between super empaths and avoidants are not random patterns to resist, nor are they failures to lament. They are spiritual exercises, orchestrated by divine timing to teach the empath about sovereignty, presence, and the power of unconditional energy. They are designed to teach the avoidant about reflection, awareness, and the magnetic pull of authenticity. When both parties engage with this rhythm consciously, every return becomes a confirmation of resonance, every pause becomes a lesson in patience, and every boundary becomes a sacred marker of truth. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, ensures that energy cannot be rushed, coerced, or ignored. Divine timing is the silent teacher that orchestrates these encounters, guiding both the empath and the avoidant toward growth, understanding, and a higher expression of love that transcends fear, attachment, and limitation. Thank you for your time and trust. May your journey be filled with clarity, strength, and purpose. Goodbye, and remember, your energy is sacred, your light is unstoppable, and your growth is inevitable.